At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch as always, so you be in touch. Go ahead, do it. Follow me on social media at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and there I am. I popped right on up. Fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. Tell your neighbor to do the same. And while you're at it, download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. All right. Speaking of pleasure, I want to encourage you all to go out and support my friends over at Better Brothers Los Angeles. These brothers are really doing some terrific service work throughout the year to make the community a better place. This Sunday, June 29th, they're partnering with Soul Cycle for the Ride with Pride. Ride with Pride. You can RSVP at ridewithpride.eventbrite.com. Bikes are going fast, and the event is happening at Soul Cycle in West Hollywood at 2 p.m. on Sunday, June 29th. You get to ride to support Better Brothers LA's vital year-round programming, especially their scholarships. You're going to be in good company. So check it out. And while you're there, say hello to our friend, Dr. Leo. You know, Dr. Leo has a book that is out right now that I think, men everywhere should have and hold. It is the perfect gift to give for folks who are really serious about their health and need to get serious about their health. It's called the Men's Preventative Health Guide by Dr. Leo Moore. And so be sure to go out and check that out. Look, wellness is from the neck up and neck down. And at Soul Cycle, you're going to get a nice dose of that, particularly from the neck down. So enjoy. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, listen, you got your student loans. Have you looked at your student loans recently? Have you logged on to Nelnet, Mohila, whatever your student loan servicer is? You might want to do that because Forbes is reporting that the Trump administration unveils sweeping student loan forgiveness restrictions. That's right, restrictions. The Trump administration just this week proposed sweeping new restrictions on student loan forgiveness for public service borrowers, potentially threatening to shut down debt relief for millions of people based on activities of the organizations that they work for. The new unveiled regulations would limit relief under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which offers student loan forgiveness for borrowers who devote at least 10 years to working for qualifying nonprofit organizations or government entities. So the Department of Education, as in the Department of Education they wanted to get rid of, but they're keeping that Department of Education around to do this. We'll get back to that. The Department of Education released proposed rules just this past Tuesday that would block public student loan forgiveness for entire organizations or governments that the administration determines are engaged in activities that have, quote, a substantial illegal purpose. Advocacy groups slammed the draft regulation as an illegal and unfair attempt to weaponize the public student loan forgiveness program against organizations and state governments that run afoul of the Trump administration's policy priorities. The groups have warned that if the rules are successfully implemented, many borrowers would be cut off from student loan forgiveness. And so the administration is looking to weaponize student loan forgiveness program. If you find yourself working for the wrong government or working for the wrong nonprofit organization, they're going to deny your student loan forgiveness. I mean, if this ain't the petty Olympics, I don't know what is. But if this rule is successful, it would go into effect starting July of 2026. Right. And so that gives us some time to, get our plan together in case things go left real quickly. Moving along, for those of you that are taking Mounjaro, you may want to pay extra close attention to this. The Guardian is reporting that hundreds of weight loss and diabetes jab users, as they call them, they report pancreas problems. Hundreds of people have reported problems with their pancreas linked to taking weight loss and diabetes injections, prompting health officials to launch a study into side effects. Now, some cases of pancreatitis reported to be linked to GLP-1 medicines have been fatal. But the move comes after an increase in reports of acute pancreatitis to the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency's yellow card scheme, which monitors an adverse reaction to medications and medical devices in the UK. In case you're wondering, acute pancreatitis is a sudden inflammation of the pancreas, a gland that is just located behind the stomach that aids our digestion. It often requires hospital admission, and symptoms include pretty severe pain in your abdomen, nausea, and fever. And so patient information leaflets for GLP-1 medications, they list pancreatitis as an uncommon reaction affecting around 1 in 100 patients. But to date, the scheme has received more than 400 reports of acute pancreatitis from patients who've been using Mounjaro, Wegovy, Ozempic, and with nearly half involving Mounjaro. And so be careful out there. Pay attention to your body. Make sure you're in conversation with your doctor, because, we want you all to be safe and happy, right? And look, these things come with risks, right? There are hardly any drugs on the market that don't have some risk. That's why they have to, label them, and they spend so much time studying them, right? And for a lot of people, given their health history and their family health history, they say, you know what? This is not a bad risk, right? And so everybody's got to determine that for themselves, but be aware. A decade. Can you believe it's been a decade after the U.S. legalized gay marriage? I can believe it because my 10-year anniversary is coming up on July 3rd. Whoop, whoop, right? A decade after the U.S. legalized gay marriage, though, Jim Obergefell says that the fight isn't over. You see, a decade after the Supreme Court's historic Obergefell versus Hodges decision legalized same-sex marriage nationwide, some advocates fear that the fight for marriage equality is far from over, including Jim Obergefell, the plaintiff in the case, who became the face of the 2015 decision and has continued to advocate for LGBTQ rights. The 2015 ruling was a turning point for LGBTQ rights, but Obergefell said that he fears that recent comments from conservative Supreme Court justices may signal a willingness to overturn it, particularly after the court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, ending the constitutional right to abortion. And so, over the past several months, Republican lawmakers in at least 10 states have introduced measures aimed at undermining same-sex marriage rights. These measures, many of which were crafted with the help of the anti-marriage equality group Mass Resistance, seeks to ask the Supreme Court to overturn Obergefell. And so, my goodness, if there was never another lesson on the consequences of an election, we are living it. Whole wide range of issues, spin the wheel. Whether you're talking about immigration, LGBTQ rights, racial justice, voting rights, policing, spin the wheel. That's right. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you a conversation I had with a Black Bahamian shark expert. You don't want to miss it. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for. For this free information, call 800-433-8909. 800-433-8909. That's 800-433-8909. Or simply visit godra.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay, things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests as we effort to build a more perfect union.
A normal range that they need to stay within to survive. And so leaving areas later or earlier than they once did, right? To maintain, to shift with the temperature. They are sometimes expanding their range into places that they were previously, not super common or at least not within, people's recent memory, right? And so there's a lot that is being by climate change, because also the prey is being impacted, right? So they have to go where the food is, and if the food is moving, they have to move.
So, is it possible, is it even possible for us to coexist with sharks? I mean, if I see a shark in the water, my natural inclination is to do my best to get out of the way of the shark. I've heard, adventurers talk about encounters with sharks, and apparently they're very sensitive on their nose. And if you just bop them on the nose, apparently they'll run away. I don't know if I would remember nor trust that advice if I was in the water, but what say you?
Well, I definitely understand that, sort of instinctual drive to flee, right? But, in reality, if you are thinking to yourself, SOS, there's a shark, I'm going to turn and swim away, you're really painting yourself like prey, right? You're probably triggering that shark to think, oh, maybe I should go check that out. Maybe that's something that I could get a meal out of. Mm-hmm. And easier said than done, but really, especially if you can see the animal, you really want to maintain eye contact. Because a lot of these sharks,
you want to do what?
Exactly what you just heard. You want to look at them because many sharks are ambush predators, right? So they're using the element of surprise to best you. So if you're looking them directly in the eye, they know that you know that they're there, and so they don't want to use a ton of energy to hunt something that it might not work out in the end, right? So even with huge tiger sharks and stuff, they're coming, and then you look directly at them and they'll turn away because they're like, miss that opportunity. And so I think it's hard to wrap your mind around it, but you do want to minimize your sort of looking like something that it should be going after. People don't look like fish. That sounds silly, but it's the reality of the situation, right? We swim different than fish swim. I give off different smells, all these different things. So you want to make yourself a presence that's saying, hey, I'm not what you're looking for.
So are you saying that it is possible to survive in the shark ecosystem by just following just sort of some very simple tips? Like, if you encounter them, stare them in the eye. I assume that, bopping them in the nose if they come too close, that's one of the tips that you would advise. But are you saying that we can actually survive encounters with sharks, that everything's not going in like Jaws?
Oh, 1,000%. Are there instances where there are these sort of devastating, harrowing events that result in a casualty? Absolutely, right? And that is something that is so unfortunate, and is never to be downplayed. The importance of this person's life and all of that, but there are more instances of people being bitten and surviving, than I think that we're hearing about. And in terms of the coexisting, we're already coexisting with sharks. There are places in California and Florida where surfers, are constantly around sharks, and they just know that that's a part of the way it has to be, because we have the option to go somewhere else. The sharks don't, right? The sharks can't choose to go hang out on land, but we can choose to go into the water. And so we have to be aware, the same way that when we get into a car, we're aware that something could go wrong. We don't assume it won't, right? It's unlikely. But the same way that we do that, we have to be aware when we go into the ocean, we can get stung by a jellyfish. We can step on a sea urchin, and we can encounter a shark, right? That's just the fact of the situation.
Yeah. And I think that's also part of what makes your series that premieres on July 5th on National Geographic. It streams on Disney Plus and Hulu, Investigation Shark Attack. This is what makes it, I think, really interesting, is that it features stories of real human shark encounters from the shark's perspective to understand why these incidents occur. Initially, I thought, well, why the shark's perspective? And, I don't know. I mean, were you did the shark sign a release? I mean, what got you interested in telling stories like this from the shark's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we often have these shows highlighting, these negative shark interactions, it's always, with the dramatization of, and a reenactment of the situation, and, talking to the witness and this and that, and that definitely has its place. It's, I think, probably empowering for the people who have come out on the other side of these situations, or the families, to be able to talk about it. And there's powerful messaging in the fact that a lot of the people say, and I'm still going in the water, and I understand that it was, the shark being a shark, right? That's powerful as well, right? To have these survivors be advocates for the shark, because I think most people think, you get bitten by a shark, you're automatically like, I hate all sharks. And for a lot of people, that's not the case, right? So to change, kind of flip the script and give sort of a, well, in this circumstance, based on the time of the year that it is, based on the habitat that we're talking about, based on the potential prey that's available in the area, that's why a shark might have even been in the area in the first place. And then what was the activity that was happening that would create some sort of stimulus for the shark to say, I got to go check that thing out, right? Because we're only typically looking at it from the perspective of, we are people, why did that shark do that to us? And this is kind of looking at it as, I'm a shark, why would I even consider going up to that area?
So did you ever see the movie Jaws? And if so, like how did Jaws sort of influence your thinking around wanting to know more through the perspective of the shark? Because I think for a lot of us, myself included, you know, we see movies like Shark or like Jaws, and you know, didn't quite make us want to learn more from the shark's perspective. And so, you know, how did it have that impact on you?
Yeah, so, you know, funnily enough, I think, you know, most people think it's shocking to hear that I actually only watched Jaws for the first time maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Because I think there's this assumption that if you're a shark person, you've seen all shark content ever created. And maybe it's just that I'm not a, you know, movie buff. But I enjoyed the movie quite a lot. I think there's only a few scientific inaccuracies, which is cool. You know, there's, you know, real information being given in the movie, which, you know, if you don't know that it's false, you wouldn't know, right? That the rest is true.
Wow. Oh, wait a minute. Steven Spielberg, are you listening?
I think it's pretty good, and it's pretty well done. And you know, obviously watching it in, you know, 2020, 2021, you look at that animatronic shark and you're like, this is what people were scared of, right? Because of what we have the capacity to do with CGI and all these things today. You know, coming out with Jaws today would have been probably the most scary thing for a lot of people, right? Because it would have seemed like such a realistic animal. But I think that, you know, for better or for worse, Jaws made sharks a big deal. Jaws put sharks at the forefront of people's minds, and made people realize that, you know, these are animals that we have to live with if we choose to go into the water, right? Did it paint sharks in a like man-eating light? Yes, and that's definitely not the case, right? That's not the reality of the situation. But at the end of the day, I think you have to remember too that you have to sell when you're in the media industry. You know, if you're looking at clicks, right? Are you going to click on something that says shark casually swims by snorkeler, or are you going to click on something that says near death experience by shark bite? You know, I think we know which one is going to be clicked on.
Look, if it just says shark attack,
the audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Island with BIN News Now. On the Black Information Network, the White House confirms the FBI is investigating the leak of an intel report challenging the effectiveness of the U.S. strikes against Iran's nuke sites. The organization was looking to challenge the state from banning it from taking part in the Medicaid program because of the abortion care it provides. A heat dome impacting millions across the central and eastern U.S. is starting to lift. Forecasters say temperatures will start falling in the Northeast, where places like New York and New England have been reporting record heat. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker will seek a third term next year. Pritzker says his state is standing at the center of the fight to make life more affordable. There are also reports that Pritzker could be running for president in 2028. New data reveals that the U.S. economy shrank more than previously estimated. The GDP fell at an annual rate of 0.5% from January through March. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Pasadena, East 210, delays from Mountain all the way to Citrus. You got some slowing in San Dimas off the 57 to Foothill. And ahead in Upland from Baseline all the way to almost the 215. It looks a lot better past Alder Avenue. The 15 in the Cajon Pass, pretty tough northbound from Summit all the way to the 138. And in Irvine, we're looking at the 5 northbound slowing away from Bake Parkway all the way to Harbor in Anaheim.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
75 years ago, in 1950, the NBA's color barrier was broken when the league drafted 3 black players. The families of the 3 players were honored Wednesday night during the first round of the 2025 NBA draft. In the 1950 draft, Chuck Cooper was a first-round pick of the Boston Celtics. Earl Lloyd was drafted by the Washington Capitals, and Nat Sweetwater Clifton was chosen by the New York Knicks. Lloyd has the distinction of being the first black player to play in an NBA game, which happened on October 31st, 1950. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed head coach Todd Bowles to a 3-year extension. The 61-year-old Bowles, one of 5 black head coaches in the NFL, will be under contract with Tampa Bay through the 2028 season. The other 4 black head coaches, Mike Tomlin at Pittsburgh, Aaron Glenn with the New York Jets, Houston's D'Amico Ryan, and Raheem Morris with Atlanta. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Near-death experience by shark bite, I think we know which one is going to be clicked on.
Look, if it just says shark attack, it's got my attention.
Right, exactly. So, but not just like oh, 99% of the time, nothing happens. No one cares about that. But that's the reality of the situation.
Nobody wants to be that 1%.
Nobody wants to be the 1%, but nobody wants to read about the 99% of the nothing happening.
Fair point.
Reality of the situation, right? So I think Jaws gave people a chance to just talk about sharks in whichever way, positively or negatively, and Jaws gave people a passion for sharks one way or the other.
You're originally from the Bahamas, a beautiful country, by the way. I was there last year. It was lovely. And right now you're joining us from Miami. Talk to us about what you hope, Black watergoers, Black beachgoers, and other beachgoers of color take from your new series, Investigation Shark Attack, which premieres nightly beginning July 5th at 9/8 Central on National Geographic, streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu. What do you want Black and folks of color to get from this investigative series?
Well, firstly, I hope that it, gives people an understanding that, people of color are in this world, right? People of color are in the world of shark science, are in the world of shark advocacy and ocean advocacy, and that it gives, especially young people, hope that, maybe that is something that's on the table for them to do. I know that many people are sort of deterred from certain fields or certain activities by when they only see, the other people highlighted, right? So I think that first of all, just, I take very seriously the role that I am sort of a role model for especially young female people of color, that this is something that you can do. You can do science and you can be serious in science as a woman, as a person of color. In terms of the show itself, I think I just hope that, perhaps by somebody like me saying all these things about sharks, that they'll take it a bit more seriously, right? Some people, we like to say, oh, that's some white people stuff or whatever type of energy, right?
It's true, we do say that.
And I say it while I'm doing it.
Black folks, let's just tell the truth. Black folks have a different risk assessment when it comes to certain things, right? And if somebody says there was a shark sighting on a beach, we ain't going to the beach that day.
Right. And, and so I hope that, in seeing people like me who are, oh no, there's a shark, let me go and see if I can see it. That you don't have to be, if you feel that way, that's great. You don't have to be worrying about what everybody around you is thinking. If you have this passion, go for it, right? Don't let the generalized perspective of your culture hold you back.
Well, this show is called A More Perfect Union because we believe it's on all of us to do our part to make it so. And whether it's in politics, arts, science, and everything in between. And so in our final moment with you, I want to give you a chance as somebody who is advancing climate justice and doing shark advocacy and being a possibility model. Share with us from your vantage point, what does a more perfect union look like in an effort to, be a better resident of planet Earth?
Wow, that's a deep question. I think that is something that is so challenging because, as somebody who, like I said, I'm from the Bahamas, right? And we are a developing nation. There are tons of things that need to be addressed, right? There are some places that don't have constant water access. There are some places that the power is going out all the time. So to then come on my platform and be like, I understand that you don't have any power, but let me tell you why you should care about sharks, right? So I think that in order for there to be this sort of more perfect union, we have to do things contextually, right? We have to understand other people's circumstances and other people's situations before we try to sort of force feed our, quote unquote agendas, because it's hard for somebody to care about, your thing of concern when they are struggling to put food on the table for their family, or they are struggling to, keep the lights on. So I think that for us to be a better society, for any, it has nothing to do with the ocean. It first takes us learning how to be compassionate, learning how to empathize and put ourselves in other people's shoes, and giving people a chance to tell their story without any sort of preconceived notions, right? Let people tell you their side of the story, and you can have a respectful discourse about it. The same way that we were saying, people don't want to be the 1%, and I'm like, yeah, but no one wants to hear about the fact of the 99%, right? So being able to just be respectful in any of our fields of work is, I think, the key to anything. And I think that is how our world, returns to a more harmonious place. And hopefully, obviously we're in a time of a lot of turmoil and tumultuous sort of situations globally. And I think that when the sort of respect is lost and the sort of compassion is lost, that's when we shift into these times that we're experiencing today. And if we sort of try to get back to, respecting our neighbors and treating everybody as you want to be treated, that we would be in a better situation.
Our thanks to Shark Expert Candace Fields. I want to remind everybody to tap in, check out Investigation Shark Attack. It premieres nightly beginning July 5th at 9/8 Central on National Geographic. Also streams July 6th on Disney and Hulu. Thank you, Candace.
Thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
We are done. It was a pleasure.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartet. Before we get to the quiet part out loud, not sure if you all saw this, but there are reports that thieves scaled a fence. They busted a window before ransacking Brad Pitt's LA home. NBC News reporting that police are investigating a reported burglary at F1 actor Brad Pitt's home. Pitt was not home at the time. A Los Angeles police spokesperson confirmed a break-in at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday at a residence in the Los Feliz neighborhood, but didn't identify who lived there or who owned the home. Thieves ransacked the home and took an unknown amount of miscellaneous property. The value of the items was not immediately disclosed. Police were looking for 3 people who climbed over the front fence and broke in through the home's front window in the latest of a wave of burglaries in recent years that have targeted high-end neighborhoods across LA and Southern California, where VIPs and celebrities have been victimized. When I saw this story, I immediately thought of the Avons and Beverly Hills. Thank goodness, Brad and his family were not home. But it's just another reminder: if you see something, say something. See something, say something. And right now, speaking of saying something, the Senate parliamentarian is saying some stuff that the Republicans don't want to hear. Republicans at this hour have been dealt a setback on their so-called big, beautiful bill as the Senate referee disqualifies key provisions. NBC also reporting that that Republicans suffered a blow today after the Senate referee ruled that a series of healthcare cuts and savings in their sweeping domestic policy bill are ineligible for the party line path they're using to get around the chamber's 60-vote threshold. The Senate parliamentarian, Elizabeth McDonough, who adjudicates procedural disputes between the two parties, has disqualified several provisions, including Medicaid rules prohibiting funds without verification of immigration status, reimbursement changes to contracts with pharmacy benefit managers, provider tax restrictions aimed at saving federal dollars, and new limitations surrounding eligibility for the Affordable Care Act funding. The disqualified provisions total from about $200 billion to $300 billion in savings over a decade. And so that's a problem. Like, think red flashing light. That is a problem for Republicans who are aiming to pass this one big, beautiful bill, so they say, for President Donald Trump. It's very key to his agenda, though the Senate, in the coming days, folks have been real itchy about it. The House passed version of the legislation was already projected to add $2.4 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years. An additional red ink could make Republicans even more nervous about voting for the final product. Senate Majority Leader Thune also admitted that the goal of starting votes on this bill Friday, as in tomorrow, was still an open question. Republican leaders are hoping to send the legislation to Trump's desk by July 4th. That's mighty fast. That's mighty fast for a bill that's not very popular. That's mighty fast if you're looking to take away people's health care. That's mighty fast. You want to reimagine federal student loans. Mighty fast. Do a lot of things that are going to affect the lives of everyday people. Now, what they're going to try and do is distract us from the terrible pieces of this legislation that will have a negative impact on our lives. And they're going to say, but no tax on tips. Isn't that great? And they're going to say, oh, and by the way, no tax on Social Security up to a certain amount. And this and that and this and that. We shouldn't be distracted. And I think the fact that Republicans in the Senate are squirming about passing this legislation is a sign that all the phone calls that you're making, all the organizing that you're doing, all the video and facts that you're posting on social media are breaking through the noise. People are seeing that this bill may not be so good for me. It may not be so good for my family. It may not be good for my neighbors. It may not be so good for my community. Maybe I'm better off at this point in my life, but maybe folks that are not as well off, maybe people that aren't doing so well financially at the moment, maybe this isn't good for them. Maybe it's not good for their families. And so we shall see what happens on Capitol Hill. Anything is possible, but make no mistake about it. Republicans have been dealt a setback on the so-called big, beautiful bill. Of course, President Trump has invested a lot of political capital in this so-called big, beautiful bill. This is supposed to be one of his biggest legislative achievements. If you've been paying attention, he's mostly been governing by executive order. There's not a whole lot of new legislation that he's been signing into law, and it's because he's invested so much political capital in this so-called big, beautiful bill. So I don't think you're going to find it to be so beautiful once it kicks in, but that would be the first time that something out of this White House was off brand. We're going to end with this. This was a big week with the Diddy trial. The government says that Diddy ran criminal enterprise under a climate of fear as prosecution wraps their closing arguments. And so this is what we need to know as reported by NBC about the trial. The assistant U.S. attorney, Christy Slavic, she urged members of the jury to use common sense. Use common sense as the government made its final arguments that Combs allegedly used his business empire as a criminal enterprise. Slavic said that Combs' young assistants didn't blink an eye and did whatever it took to make him happy during their employment, even if it meant facilitating crimes. And Combs, let me remind you, faces 5 criminal counts. 1 count of racketeering, conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy has vociferously denied the allegations against him. And look, the prosecutors have a high bar. Make no mistake about it. We've seen a lot of video out on social media and on the TV screen. We've seen a lot of images, but the defense is essentially saying, as I understand it, yeah, Diddy might have done a number of things he's not proud of. Yes, he might have demonstrated lapses in judgment, poor character, poor decision, abusive behavior. Yes, Diddy may not be a nice guy. Yes, he may have his issues, but his defense is saying all of these things do not amount to what he's being charged with, right? And so, they're going to say, jury, your job is not to convict him on being, a bad guy, doing bad things, having, awful behavior, right? That's what this dynamic has shaped up to be from day one. And so, next week we'll be sure to have on our expert in and around the courtroom from the Shade Room to give us the latest in the Diddy trial. But you all stay cool out there. If there is an elder in your phone book, give them a call, check on and make sure that they're all right. Because remember, we are all in this together. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union. My thanks to my executive producer, Tavis Smiley, to my sound engineer, brother Andy, to my show producers, Faraji and Art, and of course, to each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We see you, we salute you, we thank you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again real soon. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte. Do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker will seek a third term next year. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker will seek a third term next year. Pritzker says his state is standing at the center of the fight to make life more affordable. There are also reports that Pritzker could be running for president in 2028. New data reveals that the U.S. economy